Ladies and gentlemen, Sublimely Elegant here as always, and welcome back to the Doom Builder 2 tutorials. In this tutorial, we are going to be covering the ID tags, and lifts, and switches, all at the same time. Now, it's not as complex as it may have seemed. I've been going through everything fairly well, I like to think. I suppose that's kind of subjective, but I've covered, basic action manipulation, some fairly advanced manipulation of sectors, and to be honest, I mean, these are tutorials. I'm not gonna hold your hand and do everything. Based on the things that I've shown you, you should be able to do most things pretty okay-ish at the time being. So now I'm going to show you ID tags and help that out a little bit. So we're going to do that by making a lift. So I've created a couple sectors here. This is going to be the lift sector, and this is just a place to get a BFG, because that is why we will use the lift. So you go to your things mode, right click, that will open the edit thing immediately, weapons, BFG 9000, and for weapons and most sprites other than monsters, actually it does not matter which direction they're facing, because other than monsters, sprites will automatically face the player, so the direction of that is okay. For the switch, I'm going to go ahead and make a box here, which the switch will be on, and the switch will be right there. Now, as before, that I said, a little bit of a reminder, the little nodule here is sticking inward, not from the side where the player would interact with it, so we need to flip that line def. Pressing F, you can flip the line def. It has to face towards where the player would be using it. Now is where ID tags is going to come in. So we want to go over to sectors mode and right click on the lift sector here and click new tag, and that's going to give it a tag of 1. Click OK, and that is fine. And now we're going to go to line defs mode and go to the switch line here, and we're going to give it a tag of 1 as well. The same tag. Now when I highlight the line here, you will see the sector that is the lift is highlighted. This tells us that the line def and this sector are associated with each other now. So the action I give this will go to this, not the sector that it's on. So for this, we're going to go ahead and right click it, and for the action, just go over to the generalized actions and do lift. Trigger, switch, repeatable is what we will be using. The target will be the lowest adjacent floor. The speed can be normal. The delay, 3 seconds should be fine, and monsters, no. And click OK, and that sets that. And now it's simply a matter of getting all of the texture work done and then trying it out. So first we're going to need the lift to actually be higher up. So I'm going to raise the roof. Raise the roof over here, and we're going to just fill in this texture so that the engine will run properly. And then I'm going to raise these both up to here, a fairly unreachable level, followed by a little texture work there. Now, to differentiate the fact that this is a lift, we're actually going to be using a different type of texture. So I'm going to go over to metal, and we'll use the metal texture, which looks like that, and we can kind of nudge it over to the side like that, and we can use door stops on the side so it doesn't look as bad either. Kind of differentiate it from everything. And this is what I was talking about, textures not being rotatable. It will actually just repeat itself across, and it looks particularly bad. So that's a good example of that. I'm going to leave it because it's purely aesthetic, and we will be covering aesthetic in far greater detail in the coming episodes. So for the top here, we'll go over to metal again and do metal 2 like that. Alright, so we've got the lift set up. Now, something to keep in mind before we start working on the switch. This is a lift. It's going to lower. What happens when it lowers? It will expose this inside part, which is not textured, so this needs to be textured. Keep that in mind when you're dealing with things like this. You always want to put things in both states to make sure that it looks good from all angles and that it's working properly. So if you're making a lift, lower it all the way down, examine, change what you need, raise it all the way back up, examine, change what you need, put it where you need it. If you want it to be a lift that raises instead of falls, you can have that. When you make a door, put it all the way down, check everything, put it all the way back up, check everything. Always do that with things that are going to be active parts of the level, because that's where things can get wonky and you'd be highly confused if suddenly the game broke when you use the switch, and then you're looking at, well, what's wrong with the switch tag maybe, and really it's just an issue you've got back here. So do make sure you check all that stuff, but we've got that covered now. I used a fairly obscene amount of door track. Now this is the switch texture, so we're going to go ahead and give it a switch, or this is the switch line def, excuse me. We're going to go ahead and give it a switch texture. Now again, you usually want to pick one that suits the level style. It's not too large of a deal here. I particularly like switch gray 1, and we'll lower unpeg it so that it stays visible like that, and then the rest can be surrounded by the standard variant of the gray walls, which gray 1 here, and then just copy it and paste it all around, and look at that, a nice switch, just like that. Now if we go ahead and go into our game and test it out, we should see it working. Alright, so we started off in the initial area here. Let's go over to the switch. The switch is repeatable, so it turned itself off and the lift has risen. And there you have identification tags. That is how they work, and that gets us a very badass weapon. A little bit of a oversight. I can't get back out. The wall is too low. It's just I can't fucking whatever. But yes, that is identification tags. I hope that helps you guys out. I know that there's probably been a couple things that I might have skipped over because they're all kind of generalized under the same thing. Like if you need a specific type of door, that should be covered just by the knowledge of how to set this up, and these options should give you what you're looking for, or one of these. If you want me to go in depth on anything or have any suggestions, please leave a comment and I can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to be continuing on my schedule for Doom tutorials. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.